Come on, Soda Pop, let's go.
I guess my question is, why are we so eager to regulate something that's not even here yet? I mean, I've been aware of Uber for some time now, and I'm aware of them being very dominant in San Francisco, doing a great job and everything, but they're not even here yet, and we're wanting to regulate them already. I guess I'm concerned about that. I'm happy if they do come. I'm happy they do come because this is going to provide more competition here and more options for citizens to get around Sioux Falls. So, but once again, I'm still wondering, why are we so eager to talk about regulation already? They're not even here.
Okay, Councilor Karski, please.
Councilor Staggers, I guess the purpose of my asking the question isn't to regulate Uber or Uber drivers, more along the line of informing people that we do have ordinances that would apply, and how do they apply, and how is enforcement done, basically? Is it done on a complaint basis? Do we give Jamie Palmer a ticket book, and does she write tickets for not complying with our ordinances? It does open a whole interesting question, because somebody's going to complain, and it's probably going to be a vehicle for hire company saying that Uber, these people are driving and they're not complying with our ordinances. I'd rather have the conversation now than later, and that's why I asked the question.
Well, I remember a number of years ago, I was taking a Uber-like vehicle from the Baltimore airport to downtown Washington, D.C. And I say Uber-like because I don't think there was much regulation there at all. It was the best ride I ever had, and it's the best one I've ever had since then. So we ought to deal with some of these issues too if there's real complaints, real concerns, instead of just, hey, they're coming to town, let's regulate them now.
Councilor Jameson.
Thank you. Just a little bit of follow-up. A couple weeks ago, I was in Washington, D.C., which is apparently the Uber capital of the world, and we got started on it through some other people who were using it, told us about it, so we started using it. I sound like a drug dealer, but we started using Uber, and it is super simple, super easy, but what we found out was that the problem was if there was an accident, if we were involved in an accident, like a bad accident, we're kind of hoping that the driver has coverage and that we're protected. It isn't real clear. We don't know exactly who the driver is, kind of. They have a name and some ways of knowing that, but it isn't like a cab. And the cabs in town hate Uber because it interferes with their business model. But the regulations on the driver and the safety of the vehicle, after a few rides, it is a more pleasant experience with the Uber drivers we found, but there certainly still needs to be a connection made to safety concerns that was brought up, and that would be my issue going forward if we should have somebody come to town like that.
Yes. Councilor Kiley.
Well, I think it's going to be a matter of time before Uber inquires about moving into the Sioux Falls area. And as a governing body here, I think it is our responsibility to take that into consideration. And I do agree with Councilor Karski that it's much better to be proactive than it is to be reactive. So I appreciate the questions, Councilor.
Okay, any other? Councilor Erickson?
A new topic, are you Uber related?
Okay.
But I wonder,
Uber related?
sorry, I am not Uber related, but I would like to talk about it for just a minute. I wonder if Jamie might just remind us if I plan to be a driver for either a taxi service here in Sioux Falls, or if I decide I want to drive my car as an Uber driver, what am I going to need to do? Because we know they are coming, regardless of what Councilor Staggers thinks, they are coming. We know that they'll be here, and there will be people in our community that will want to make extra money doing this. So what do they need to do to comply with the city ordinances?
Well, it would, sorry, Jamie Palmer with licensing. It would kind of depend on the business model again, is how it's set up. But at the very least, they would need to contact the police records department and apply for an operator's permit. And I believe that permit costs $35. If they're considered independent contractors of Uber, I would envision that they would also need to apply for the business license. They would have to have a sales tax. They would have to provide documentation that their vehicle has been inspected. They'd have to pay the $50 fee. They'd have to get me the certificate of insurance proving that they have the appropriate amounts of insurance coverage. They'd also have to get commercial plates and then provide me copies of their operator's permit from the police department, so.
Right, because they are becoming a business within the state of South Dakota. They will be collecting sales tax. They will be operating a business in South Dakota. There are requirements for running a business here, and so those are the things they'll need to do. So start with the police department, and then if they're contracting, they'll need to come to you at City Hall.
Correct.
Thank you.
Before you leave, I agree in principle of what was said there, but I have questions because of Uber being an internet company, basically. Everything is handled through the internet, and the state does not cover sales tax revenue through the internet at this time. So it's going to be, how do we identify these drivers if they don't want to be licensed? How are we going to be able to identify them? And, that's some of the questions, because it's, like I said, everything is going to be done through the web, I believe, is how that Uber works. So
The other thing with reciprocity, once you are a business, if you have a physical presence in the city or the state, you then are required to have a sales tax license. So even though 99% of it is done through the internet, if you are located within the border of South Dakota, that creates reciprocity and you're required to have a sales tax license. So it doesn't matter if it's all done business through the internet. It's Jamie's getting in my car, I'm physically driving her from point A to point B, I'm here, I'm located here, I'm required to have a sales tax license, is how it works for
So
Department of
those
Revenue.
drivers are going to be responsible for sales
They
tax
would
revenue.
most likely be independent contractors, but it depends on how their business model is set up and how Department of Revenue wants to enforce it.
Councilor Karski.
I guess the point of my bringing up this conversation isn't that we're going to be hunting for Uber drivers and we're going to be trying to, come down on them. But you can be guaranteed that somebody is going to complain to City Hall, to Jamie, to licensing, to our attorney, that we have Uber drivers out there. And they're going to identify them by name. At that point, where does this go? And that therein is the question. What would be the fine, Jamie, for not doing any of these things?
Well, the current process, I'll tell you, the taxi cab or the vehicle for hire group is very self-policing, in that if they see someone operating and they know they don't have a license, I have a list online, and they check it regularly. If they don't see the name on the list, they call me. I, in turn, refer them to the police department, and then they deal with the police department on operating without a license at
And
this
that
time.
fine would be?
Typically, it's going to be probably a $95 fine, and the officers could always still make it a court appearance required. Then it's up to the court, anywhere from up to a $500 fine, and there is always a possibility of jail time too with any city ordinance, although it's rarely asked for. So probably a $95 ticket to start with, which they can pay. If they choose not to pay that, then it's up to the court, up to the amount of $500, how much the fine would be.
Thank you, Keith. Again, I just wanted to bring this up because it's going to be happening here, and we don't invite Uber. Uber doesn't show up and say, hey, Uber is here. People just start signing up, and if you're on Facebook, it says sign up to be an Uber driver. They're gonna start doing business here, and it's just going to happen quietly. They don't take out a big TV ad or radio ad or anything like that. It's just going to start, and we're going to be presented with this. So,
Councilor Kiley.
And again, I agree with Councilor Karski. And if And again, I don't have all of the facts in front of me, but let's assume that they are all independent contractors. At least with our current cab companies, the companies are responsible for doing background checks on their drivers. But with an Uber driver, if they are an independent contractor, who's responsible for doing that background check to ensure that it's not a pedophile driving our children or grandchildren around the city? So there again, I think it's important that we are proactive on this particular issue.
Is there any recommendations, suggestions from the council? Councilor Fambach?
I don't think we're making recommendations. I think we're just reminding folks that we do have ordinances. I mean, we get these questions all the time, or at least I personally get these questions quite frequently that, you know, what would we do? Well, we already have ordinances in place, and I think that's what this conversation is about, is that the reality is if you're going to be an Uber driver, great. Go for it. It's a great way to make extra money. Understand that the state laws in South Dakota require this, and the city laws in Sioux Falls require that. That's it. Just want you to know that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move forward then. Next will be,
Counselor?
sir. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Erickson.
Thank you. Sorry, new topic, non-Uber related. I just wanted to just share a little bit about my experience at the Paramedics Plus open house. I think most of us had the opportunity to tour and walk through their open house. And during that tour, talking to some of the executives from Tyler, Texas, and thanking them for believing in our company and wanting to do business in our city and state. It sparked a conversation of how appreciative they were of the city council, and they did not take each and every one of us for granted. Maybe that is because it was a little bit messy along the way, I'm not sure. But the conversation was very appreciative, and I want to share that with each of you because I know that was a pretty long process. Councilor Karski served on the RFP and spent a lot of hours reading and doing that. But it sparked another question I had was, how did this RFP take place? And so I started asking some questions and got some answers, and it was pre my time on the council, and so I just share this publicly because I found it very fascinating how this came about. Apparently there was an audit committee, the audit was done, and they suggested to do an RFP because it hadn't been done for a long time. There wasn't money in the budget, and so a counselor decided to make an amendment to our budget and provide the funds to do an RFP to better the response times for our community and just really see if this is where we should do where this should be. And so I share that with you, and it was Counselor Jameson that did that. Sorry to put you on the spot. I know you didn't know I was going to say that, but I share that with you to challenge you, each of us, as we move towards the budget season, that we're thinking outside the box and solving additional problems and issues, because this Paramedics Plus, talking to them, walking through their building, it was awesome. Their technology is just phenomenal, and I think it's a great asset to our community. And so I just share with you the comments he had about us as a council, as well as how we got to that process. Since it was pre my time and I had no idea how we even came to that RFP, I wanted to share how that was done as well. So those are my comments.
Councilor Rolfing.
Yeah, I want to just touch on that too. I had the chance last week to join forces with another person on one of our 18-hole pastures for the city, and we were. He didn't tell me right away that he was a captain in the fire department, but after we got going and we started talking about it, he says, "I want to thank you for Paramedics Plus." He said, "I've been on 3 or 4 calls already with them, and the level of professionalism is tremendous. We've made a tremendous leap." And he said, "We want to thank you. The fire department wants to thank you." And I've heard some of the same things from the police too. So it's we did it right. We did it the way it's supposed to be done, and came out the way it was supposed to too.
Councilor Jameson.
I'll add one other note too from the open house. I ran into an individual who'd worked for Rural Metro or served as a paramedic for some 20 years and was there for the transition to Paramedics Plus. And just as from an employee's perspective, they are very happy. They kind of felt maybe that the other company had just gotten a little tired maybe, but either way, from an inside perspective, very happy with the new investment of the new equipment and just the attitude from management. So she's been uplifted because of the change, and that's all good for all of us.
Okay, any other subjects? All right, we'll move to the presentations. First one will be 2016 legislative priorities, and we'll have Jim David as our presentator.
Good afternoon, City Council. Jim David, Legislative Operations Manager. In preparation of the Municipal League Policy meeting in August, I want to take an opportunity to review your legislative priorities and review some of the potential new priorities. As in 2015, we hope to have a resolution adopting your provisional legislative priorities for your consideration in July. The first two priorities that you see in front of you are intended to be more defensive statements. Number one mirrors a municipal league statement that opposes any legislation that would inhibit municipalities from providing services requested by citizens in whatever form the citizens approve, and opposes any legislation that restricts local control over taxation and spending. Number two was added last year and is intended to protect the city's limited revenue sources. It opposes any legislation that would reduce, remove, repeal, or reallocate the municipal sales tax, liquor tax reversion, or any other municipal revenues to any other unit of government, or that would expand the power to impose a sales tax and use tax to any other unit of government. Priorities number 3 and 4 were also added last year. Priority number 4 supports alternative legal publications. It had received minimal support in committee and was easily defeated, but both of these priorities are included in the South Dakota in the current municipal policy statements. For discussion purposes, I've included 3 potential additions to the legislative priorities that were submitted by Councilor Erpenbach addressing the county needs in South Dakota. The first item supports permissive legislation allowing a local option drink tax with proceeds funding county government. This has been commonly referred to as a nickel a drink or a dime a drink liquor tax. The second item is that the Sioux Falls City Council supports cooperative activities between county and municipal governments, the protection of existing joint activities, and elimination of barriers that hinder the creation of such arrangements. This item also provides an opportunity to highlight the relationships that the city has with both Minnehaha and Lincoln County to the South Dakota legislators. And then finally, the third item, the City Council supports legislation easing the county government's capacity to generate revenue and fund county operations and state mandated services. This item is intended to allow the county to move their revenue around and to fund those areas that they're having difficulty funding. Just kind of looking at our timeline, I'd ask you please continue to forward me any other items that you may have for the upcoming legislative session. I believe the administration will also be sending some additional items for final consideration by the council. By July, we hope to have a council consensus on provisional items to include in the legislative priority resolution. On August 12th and 13th, these items will be submitted to the Municipal League's policy committee for inclusion in their policy statements for 2016. And then in October, the League will take formal action to consider those policies at their annual convention. And once the League takes this final action, a resolution will be in front of the City Council in November, and that resolution will be delivered to the area legislators. Happy to answer any of your questions, and I welcome any discussion on some of these items.
Questions from the council? Councilman Jameson.
Jim, did you say that Councilor Erpenbach provided all 3 of those?
She did.
That's great work. What are you doing? That's
I stay up at night. No, it's some of those things that we've had conversations with our colleagues on the county commission for years, and especially that, as we said, the nickel a drink tax, or as Councilor Kiley calls it, and especially as we said, the nickel a drink tax, or as Councilor Kiley calls it, the dime a tap tax. Thanks. It does. It sounds great. But I think we're at a point, and we know that very clearly. Councilor Jameson, you have been key in bringing the two county governments together with the city government to meet and to collaborate over some ideas that, it's time. In some ways, the county government in South Dakota is allowed to become sort of an archaic system. That's why that third one is kind of as squishy as it is. There needs to be new thought as to how local governments work in the state of South Dakota. And I just think because the city and the county, at least in Minnehaha County, are almost the exact same people. We have two governments governing the same group of people, essentially, that we really need to be working with those folks. And there are some things with state government that don't allow us to do that. I think these pieces would be critical in the future of the way the government works, at least in the city of Sioux Falls and in this metropolitan area. So, we can tinker with the words in whatever way you want, but I just think we need to be supporting our colleagues in the county governments at this time.
Councilman Karski.
If I could, I just wanted to say that's, Councilor Erpenbach, you really picked up on the cooperative nature that the municipal league is looking at with the counties as well. So you did a fine job here, really, and we'll review them for sure. And the other piece of all this is working directly with our legislators and having those committee meetings where we sit and talk to them one-on-one and get a legislator to buy in to owning one of these topics and sponsoring the bill and moving it through the House or whatever it takes. And we've had success with that, and it's a new generation of that effort versus just turning in our sheet like we used to do. So good job, and thank you.
Councilman Karski.
I too thank you, Councilor Erpenbach. The first option, or the first one that's mentioned there, last year during the South Dakota Municipal League Taxation Committee meeting, I made the recommendation that it was adopted by the committee to change the Municipal League's position from neutral to supporting the counties on getting the local option drink tax. Now, I don't think, and somebody can refresh my memory, if the counties really pursued that option last year, did they?
From my recollection on that, Minnehaha County had proposed that or has supported it, but their association did not have that included as one of their legislative items.
So the county association kind of let it die on the vine last year, basically.
I'm not quite sure what happened at their convention or if Minnehaha County formally submitted this to their convention, but I know some of the items that Minnehaha County did submit were not included in their final draft.
Okay, thank you. And then looking at the second one, totally support. The third one I'm kind of confused about, and if you'd probably explain it a little bit. And the reason I asked the question is I've kind of asked a similar question of legislators, and maybe Councilor Erickson, being a former legislator, can confirm or deny this, but the counties have the capacity to opt out to increase their revenues if they want to. So are you thinking something beyond that, or where are we going with that?
If I might, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Thank you, Councilor Karski. Really what I'm thinking about is, and I think it speaks to what Jim was just talking about, in the county association in the state of South Dakota, Minnehaha is one of, in terms of financial difficulties, we're in the most dire circumstances in Minnehaha County. Even though it houses the city of Sioux Falls, which is doing so well economically, it goes back to years ago when the property tax freeze happened. Counties like Pennington County and Brown County, other counties, set their mill levies at a certain rate when all of that happened. And Minnehaha took a very conservative stand at that time, and it has come back now to really cause some damage to us. And I agree the wording isn't quite there. I think we should work with it, but I think that the state needs to come to that point again where, yes, they can opt out, but let's figure out as a state, how do we better fund counties? And I, of course, am an adamant supporter of keeping, the municipal sales tax has to stay the way that it is in my personal view, but are there other ways that counties can be funded? Can that property tax freeze be changed in some way? Can whatever, but let's start that conversation. And I think it has to start with not just the counties saying, poor us, it has to say, you know what, that's our county too. And we need to stand up for that county, and we need to be involved in that conversation. So, yeah, I'm up to work on the words, however we want to work on the words, but let's stand up and say, as a city, we support our county, and something needs to change.
Councilman Karski.
And I agree. We do need to fully support our people over at the county government. And it's interesting you bring up, Pennington County and Minnehaha County and the difference there. And, it's pretty much just the opposite of the situation we have here in Sioux Falls. And the school districts are the same way. The Sioux Falls School District, when that happened, I don't know if you want to say they did it right, but they set their funding at a level that has benefited them, where Pennington County School District is in dire straits, or at least hurting fairly well. So maybe it's more of a matter of the state allowing a reset back to zero and us supporting that type of activity so that municipalities, schools, counties, whatever, can maybe all be on a level playing field.
Right. I think if I might, Mr. Chair, it really just is about that idea of we need to look at these systems differently. It's 2015, for heaven's sake. Stuff has changed since that. All of those things were set the way that they're set. We really need to start thinking forward, and we need to think about how this affects those people that we want all these people to come here and we want them to have jobs, but we can't even figure out how to fund our governments. We got to think differently. We just do.
Councilor Staggers.
Well, I guess I'm not overly concerned about the county government, because I remember when I was in the state senate in the 1990s, constantly the county government was calling upon us for more money, and ever since then, every year they continue to do this. And then when was it, last year or the year before last, the county government took bold action. They opted out for 20 years, I believe it was. Unprecedented, never heard of before in South Dakota. So I think what we ought to be doing is maybe trying to encourage the county government to maybe be more efficient, establish more priorities, instead of just constantly wanting more and more money. This is normal for the county government for decades. They ought to be trying to figure out new ways to operate the government.
A question that came to mind to me as we were in this discussion, and especially about the local option for the drink tax, basically that it went to the county's association and sort of died there. I think that these are really good priorities, but I think maybe we should, instead of talking about starting at a state level, that maybe we should start at that county association level and see why that some of these ideals are dying there. We have more than just Minnehaha County, and we know what happens when we go to peer with an ideal from this area. I would rather see a lot more support from the other counties on some of these ideals also. Councilor Erickson?
If I might, Mr. Chair, I certainly don't disagree with you, but I think that the point is that Minnehaha is in the worst condition, and that their fellow members on that coalition statewide are not in as much trouble as Minnehaha County is. And I think Councilor Staggers is right. He's hitting the nail on the head that we need to run county government differently, but the problem is that the state requires that the county run in this way that it does, and it requires jails, it requires road projects, it requires all of these things, and it's an archaic system. The system needs to change, the funding system needs to change, and I think that's the conversation that we're trying to have, is that we support that change in however it is, but that needs to be part of the conversation. But I think in part you're right, that, and obviously we're not the county statewide group, but that statewide group is killing it, because a lot of counties are they're flush, they're okay, because they didn't take the same steps that Minnehaha did in that day when they had to make that choice.
And I look at it the same as that extra penny sales tax, where we had 99 municipalities, behind that, and there was other entities who weren't for it, and we didn't get the support that we hope to get from the state. And I think that needs to happen here, where we have that ground support also, even though it may be just a Minnehaha County issue, that the other counties understand and support that also.
Yep, you're right.
So,
You're right, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Erickson.
Just piggybacking off of that, and with the Municipal League, the Economic Development group that I'm in, we've been meeting with county county officials have been coming to those meetings in Oklahoma, as well as Municipal League and many other representatives from the municipalities statewide. And so that's just an example of how they are listing all the tools in the toolbox of how can we be effective growing our economy and having economic development tools that we can both use and partner together. And instead of showing up in peer and saying, hey, we're for this, and the counties are saying no, and we're fighting each other back and forth, which happens oftentimes. You have all these opponents and proponents. How can we meet in advance? Kind of like we do with our legislators. You know, the last couple of years, we've moved forward and said, this is what's important to us. Where will you sign up? Where will you support us? And doing the same things with building the relationships with counties and municipalities, because it's working on the economic development side. I mean, we have all-day meetings, and they're good. I mean, we're working out different options. You know, and counties and municipalities are very different. And I know we all know this, but I'll just state this: is our city continues to grow. The boundaries of the counties can only grow as far as what they're drawn currently. They can't keep adding to their sales tax revenue coming in because they don't get a piece of that. And so it's partnering together to find out, do we have things that are hindering them? You know, what are we doing as a municipality to add more debt to their bottom line? Do we have ordinances that we need to review and get rid of because then they're prosecuting them? How can we partner together? And so I appreciate your comments on here and adding these in here, and I think it's a great start, and as we move forward for the legislative priorities.
Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, when it comes to the county, I think it's important for citizens of Sioux Falls to remember they're paying taxes, property taxes to Sioux Falls, the city, and they're also paying taxes to the county, Minnehaha. So as we expand, the counties also are getting more money too, just because of the population of Sioux Falls is contributing substantial amount of money to them. I guess this is something I don't think we have to overly worry about as long as we continue to expand as a city, because we want to continue to grow. We continue to want to get more revenue, and because at the same time it's also generating more revenue for the county.
And Mr. Chair, that's kind of the intent, is for you all to talk and get a consensus, and then we'll, as staff, will formulate a proposal, put it before you, and it can be amended and changed and then approved, so.
And remember, again, June is the month for submissions of ideals for our legislative priorities. So we do have this month to add to this or to add more framework to the ideals that we have. Thank you, Jim. All right, the next presentation will be the aquatic rate proposal. I believe we'll start with Tracy Turback, it looks like.
Thank you, Councilor. Tracy Turback with the Finance Department. I think your agenda just lists Alicia Luther, and as you can plainly see, I'm not Alicia. She is here, and she'll be up at the podium in just a minute when we get into some of the meat of the presentation. We are here today to talk about aquatics rates, and before we get into the presentation, I did want, I think it's good for you folks to know that the tremendous number of meetings and hours and discussion that has gone into the presentation that you'll see today, and all the work that went into developing the recommendations that are included in the presentation were a collaborative effort between the Parks team and the Finance team. We've really partnered up on this issue and spent a lot of time working together, and I think that should bring some satisfaction to you folks, knowing that we are working closely together. We have looked at a countless number of different ideas and structures and rates, and did a lot of research to develop not just rates for our new indoor facility, but also reassessing rates at our outdoor facilities. And as we began to dig in to tackle this project, we did identify several goals that we wanted to achieve by developing our rate structures. And you can see there's a number of bullets on the slide, but in my mind it really boils down to two words, and that is quality and value. We want to establish rates that recognize the value of our aquatics facilities to all citizens. And that may sound very straightforward and very simple, but it really involves striking the proper balance, because clearly the people, the swimmers that use facilities, benefit from those facilities and the quality that's provided in those facilities, but the community at large also benefits by having nice aquatic facilities within our community. And so it's not just something that should be supported strictly by the users. There is a reasonable balance, I believe, that needs to be struck. We want our rates to recognize and to reflect the value that we offer in the number and the quality of outdoor facilities that we provide. We want our rates to reflect and recognize the value that we offer in comparison to other South Dakota and Midwest communities, and you'll see quite a bit of information in the presentation that was gathered on that effort. We are, in the context of our outdoor rates, we are significantly behind other South Dakota communities, and you'll see a recommended phased approach to get our season passes up to something closer to what will be, or what we currently see as the South Dakota average for outdoor season passes. And when it came to evaluating rates for the indoor facility and trying to determine the value in relation to other communities, we really didn't find anything comparable in South Dakota, so we did look outside South Dakota and into the Midwest region for comparisons. We do also want our rates to recognize and reflect the value provided by the size, the quality of the amenities, and the truly outstanding overall quality that our new indoor aquatic center is going to provide. That is really going to be unparalleled in this region. It's just going to be a tremendous facility, and if you really haven't come to appreciate that, IMCUNTER is going to provide. That is really going to be unparalleled in this region. It's just going to be a tremendous facility, and if you really haven't come to appreciate that, I'm confident that you will soon have that same appreciation for just the outstanding quality that we'll have in our indoor facility. We also want our rates to, as I mentioned, to recognize and reflect the value that high-quality facilities, both indoor and outdoor aquatics facilities, bring to the community and the taxpayers at large. So the value is not just to those who use the facilities. And with that in mind, we are not proposing rates to get us to a break-even or a self-sustaining position with our aquatics facilities. I know when we talked about the event center, that very early on in the discussion on the operations of the event center, one of the early goals established was to operate the facility in the black. That's not what we're proposing here. That's not the intention with our aquatics facilities. We are proposing, I believe, a reasonable and balanced approach to setting aquatic rates. Operating our aquatics facilities is very expensive. $1.8 million was spent by the city last year in operating our outdoor facilities. It's important for you folks, I know you guys understand this, but it's important for you to keep this in mind. And I think it's also important for the public to understand that expenses of operating our aquatics facilities that are not covered by user fees are paid by taxpayers. Keeping fees down doesn't lower the costs. The costs will be what they will be. And it's just a matter then of determining where that financial responsibility for paying those costs will fall. Tax dollars spent operating aquatics facilities are dollars then that are no longer available to hire police officers or firefighters, to fund affordable housing programs, to fix potholes or run libraries, or all the many other things that we do with our tax dollars. Another point I'd like to make is that keeping up with rates is important. Getting further behind, as I mentioned, is certainly not the model we want to practice, in my view. Many of you have been on the council long enough to recall the very difficult and very painful decisions that had to be made with regard to water and sewer rates. The city hadn't kept up and hadn't made incremental increases in water and sewer rates for a number of years, and that ultimately resulted in some very painful and very difficult decisions for the city council to get caught up. In addition to recognizing the value of our facilities, we do want to establish rates that will help to ensure a high-quality patron experience at both the indoor and the outdoor facilities. We want our rates to be affordable relative to the value that's being provided, and you'll see in the presentation that we are providing for significantly discounted rates for swimmers from low-income households. We also want our rates to put our Parks Department in a position where they can provide a safe, accessible, and fun experience for all users. So what you will see in the presentation, you'll see the recommended rates for both the outdoor facilities. Alicia will walk you through that portion of the presentation here in just a minute. And Don will follow Alicia with the presenting the research and the recommendations for the indoor aquatic facility rates. As I mentioned, we have gathered significant supporting data for that support our recommended rates in comparison with other South Dakota communities, with other Midwest communities, and I think perhaps most compelling, other local aquatics indoor facilities and other local entertainment options. And I think you'll find some of that information very, very compelling. With that, I will turn it over to Alicia, and she will take us through the outdoor rate recommendations. Thank you.
Hi, Alicia Luther, Recreation Manager with the City of Sioux Falls Parks and Recreation Department. I will be walking you through the outdoor aquatic rates, like Tracy said, and so with that, we'll begin. As Tracy said, we did survey multiple communities. We felt that was really important for us to get an idea of what are other communities charging for their outdoor season passes and also their outdoor daily rates. And so with that, you'll see the listing of the South Dakota communities that we surveyed and also the Midwest communities. And so we used all of these communities to gather our data and also to develop our recommendations that you'll see shortly. So to start with, I'd like to show you the outdoor daily rates and a comparison graph of where we're currently at in relation to those South Dakota averages and also the Midwest averages. And so currently, our child rates are $3, our adult are $4, and our senior are $3. As you can see, we're about the half this rate of our South Dakota communities, and we're fairly even with the Midwest communities. But again, approximately $1 lower at times. Moving on, you'll see our outdoor season pass rates. With these, again, we compared ourselves to those South Dakota and Midwest averages. In this graph, you'll notice that our rates are quite a bit lower than all the other communities that we surveyed. With that, we'll start with our child. Again, we're at $15 currently for an outdoor season pass. Again, our passes will get you into all 5 aquatic centers that we have. And in most of the other communities that we surveyed, they did only have 1 swimming pool that their pass was good at for the summer. So again, child is 15, adult is 45, senior is 30, and family is 70. Something else that we found with the other communities is that they do have limits to their family passes. They range anywhere, they actually have a cutoff, so it's up to 5 family members on those family passes, which we currently have no limit to our passes. So another point that I'd like to make is that when you look at our bar graph, you'll see that currently our family rate is at $70 for a regular priced family pass with unlimited family members. That is half the South Dakota average for our current 2015 season. Also, in those different cities that we surveyed, we want to point out that out of all those different cities that we surveyed, whether it be South Dakota or Midwest, none of the other cities that we surveyed did offer a free or a reduced price season swim pass to their users. And we feel as we give you this information, it's also important for us to share with you the trends that we've seen over the years with our paid and free passes that we provide to the community. And so we started from 2006, and the reason for that is that we had a different system in place in 2006. In 2006, we worked directly with the Department of Human Services, and they would tell us who was in the most dire need of a free pass. And so at that time, they would distribute those passes for us, and we would range anywhere from like around 170 to 180 for free passes distributed each year. Again, those went to the people that they felt were the most desperate need of those passes. Then in 2007 and 2008, you'll see a change, and you'll see that we start increasing. The reason for that is that we started to partner up with other community groups, and we started to do the summer splash programs. Those were events that were held at various locations. It was a one-stop shop where people were able to get a free swimsuit that was donated from local businesses, and we were there to provide the passes to them free of charge. And then we move into 2009, where we started to move into our current structure for handing out those free swim passes, where anyone who is a Sioux Falls resident who is currently actively receiving EBT or food stamp benefits is qualified to receive a free swim pass from us for the summer. In 2013, you're going to notice that those free passes start to go down just a little bit, and also in 2014 they've went down from where they were in maybe 10, 11, and 12. Reason being is that we implemented our online season swim pass program, which has been a wonderful asset to the city, and we're so excited about it because we're able to have real-time data, which allows us to track all of our passes and what people have purchased that day. Unfortunately, before we had the online season swim pass program, we did have some fraudulent activity. There were individuals who were able to go to multiple locations in one day and receive multiple free swim passes. And so our online system has really helped us to achieve a more accurate account of who should be getting those passes, and people are not able to get multiple free passes. So now we will move on to our recommendations. For our proposed outdoor daily rates, you'll see our current rate structure, which does show that we do offer a $2 or a $3 daily admission. That is based on our traditional pools and our aquatic centers. What we would like to do, what we'd like to do is move to just having one rate, just to keep it a little bit simpler. And so we'd move to a $4 across the board rate. Again, you'll see that that is $2 lower than our South Dakota average. For the adult, what we would like to do for the adult is to raise by $1. So from $4 to $5. And again, with the seniors, we'd increase by $1 also and move from $3 to $4 for our daily pass rates. And again, it was important for us to compare ourselves to that South Dakota average. And as you'll see, we still are remaining lower than our South Dakota average for the communities that we did survey. For our proposed outdoor daily rates, we also felt it was important for you to see it on a graph to show you how we will look compared to the other communities that were surveyed. So again, we're still going to be around $2 lower than anyone else in the state. And something else to note is that when people do come to our pools for the day and they pay the daily rate, they do get a stamp when they leave for the day. And if they want to go to another pool later in the day, they want to take a break, go get supper, they want to come back and go to, let's say they started out at Drake Springs and then they want to go to Frank Olson that evening, they're able to do that without paying another daily rate. Moving on to our proposed outdoor season pass rates, what you'll see is that it was very important for us to try to do a phased approach. We felt that was important. We didn't want to come to you with a large rate increase in 1 year, and we felt that it was important for us to ease it into our community. And so looking at that and trying to be as responsible as we could with the proposed increases, what you'll see is that our current child outdoor pass rate is $15, and we're proposing over the next 3 years to increase that to $60 in 2018. What we've done is, by 2018, hopefully we'll be able to get to that South Dakota average for 2015. So again, we're still going to be a little bit lower even by 2018, but at least we're starting to get in the ballpark of where we feel we need to be. Again, the adult is currently at $45, and throughout the 3-year step increase, we'll end up at $70 for an adult season pass. And for the seniors, we're currently at $30. It'll take us to $65 in 2018. And again, we're proposing now also for the family that we would do a family pass up to 5. What that would mean is you would have 2 adults, 3 children, or you'd have 1 adult, 4 children. We feel like that's very comparable to what other communities are doing. In our survey results, what we found was that a lot of the different communities do have this stipulation in place for the fees that they charge. They do limit the number of family members on those passes. So the current family rate is $70, and again, we would get ourselves to $150 for a season pass rate for a family of 5 by 2018, which is comparable with that South Dakota average. We also would still continue to offer the reduced family pass, which would be half the price of our regular price passes. Again, this would be limited to the 5 family members, and currently we're at $35, and we would move ourselves to $75 by 2018. In addition, in our survey results, what we found was that in most communities, they do offer an extra rate. So with those family up to 5 definitions, what they do is every additional family member after 5 does pay an additional fee to be on that family pass. That was something that we found in a lot of various communities that we surveyed. And so based on what we found from those communities and the average of what they charge, that was $20, and we would like to bring ourselves to that same level. So again, $20 for every family member after 5. When you look at our proposed outdoor season pass rates, what this graph will show you is that how we get to those pass rates and how we'll compare on average with the other communities that we surveyed. And again, the communities that we surveyed, these are their current 2015 pass rates. Again, something else that we found is that a lot of the other communities are raising their fees on an annual or biannual basis as well, just to make sure they're keeping up with their fee structure. So with the child, you'll see the first year will be that green color, and that'll be the 2016 increase. The blue will take us to 2017, and the maroon, the red, would take us to our 2018 target goal. And again, you'll also see that that last column does show our reduced family rates. And again, we did not have any other comparable data for that because the other communities that we surveyed do not offer a reduced family pass. So as we move forward, you'll notice that we did not include a free family pass on the slides that we're showing to you. And so our recommendation is to discontinue our free season passes. But again, we are committed to affordable access with the reduced season passes to those who qualify, so the qualifying households at half the cost of a regular season pass. And so we feel like that really does allow for people who cannot afford the regular priced rate to still have access to our facilities. And with that, I will turn it over to Don to share our proposed indoor aquatic center rates.
Director Kearney, before you continue, I'd just like to sort of survey the council at this time to see if you want to ask questions now about the outdoor or just continue. Okay, thank you. Please.
Good afternoon, City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. As Tracy mentioned, we are proposing rates for our new indoor aquatic center that'll open next fall of 2016. And as part of our budgeting process, it's important for us to establish these rates so that as we come back to you later this year with our 2016 budget, we'll be able to have these rates established and set our budget accordingly. As we did with the outdoor rates, we did survey other communities that had similar facilities. And it's important for us to really survey those cities that were municipal operated facilities, so we had good comparison. You know, there are YMCAs and other facilities that are a little bit more multi-purpose. They offer more than just an aquatic center. So we really did seek out those standalone indoor aquatic centers. And you can see the cities that we served as we drew our comparisons. For the proposed indoor rates for daily admission for 2016, we are proposing a $5 rate for child, a $6 rate for adults, and a $5 rate for seniors. You'll note that the Midwest indoor average is $4, $5, and $4 respectively, and the South Dakota outdoor average, again, we're using the outdoor average as another point of reference for the City Council because we really didn't find many good comparables within the state of South Dakota, but we felt like at least you know what other outdoor facilities are charging that are municipally operated. This next slide is just a graphic representation based on our proposed indoor daily rates or where we would fall. You'll note that we really kind of fall in between the Midwest indoor average and the South Dakota outdoor average at $5 for children, $6 for adults, and $5 for seniors. And the other thing I would mention, and you'll see this in the fee ordinance, is that 0 to 2 years of age is actually free at our aquatic centers, and so there is no cost for their admission. A couple other options that we wanted to be able to afford people and create some flexibility and a very simple process for establishing entrance into our facility. We are proposing a punch pass that would provide a 10% reduction off the daily rate. And so it's much like a Hy-Vee gift card, so to speak, where you go in and buy a gift card. But in this case, we're actually providing a 10% discount. So for example, if you went in and bought $50 worth of punch pass, it only cost you $45, reflecting the 10% discount. And then you would also be able to get those in $100, $150, and $200 increments, so that it really suits your needs and provide the flexibility for you and your family to really decide how much pass, the discounted pass at 10% that you would provide. And so if you wanted to purchase $200 worth of punch pass, it would actually only cost you $180 in that particular situation. As it relates to the reduced rate, we want to continue to provide that opportunity. It would be half the face value of the dollar amount that you would receive. And so, again, if you bought $50 worth of punch pass at the reduced rate, it would be half price, or $25 in that case. We also wanted to be able to offer an opportunity for those folks that were regular users. Say, hey, I'm going to go lap swim every morning. I want to be a regular user. I just want a yearly pass, and I want to be done with it. Or I have one child, and I just want to buy my child a pass for the entire year. We wanted to be able to provide that opportunity and that option for them. So an individual pass, as we're proposing, is a $300 pass that would get you into the indoor pool for the entire year. Again, as with the punch pass rates, we are proposing a $150 rate, again at a 50% cost compared to the regular rate. And we think that'll, again, be a nice option for people. Or they can buy use the daily rate, or purchase the punch pass at the discounted rate as well. So when we compare our rates to other local aquatic facilities, we thought it was important to kind of give you a snapshot of what that would look like. And so if you took our monthly rate of $13 for a reduced indoor aquatic center rate, $25 for a Sioux Falls indoor aquatic center rate at the regular price, and then you'll see that the other indoor aquatic options throughout the city of Sioux Falls range anywhere from $30 to $72 per month. And so we think this provides a great value for entertainment options and aquatics options in Sioux Falls, and just wanted to let you know how that compared to other opportunities we have available here in Sioux Falls. And then we also talked about, well, what are the other entertainment options for a family of 5? You know, how does that compare with some of the other activities where you can spend your entertainment dollar? If you have a reduced option for a family of 5, it would cost you $14, assuming you bought the punch pass and got the 10% discount. The same would be true if you were paid the regular rate for the punch pass. At the 10% discount, a family of 5 could swim for $24. And then as you look at some of those other facilities and entertainment options we have across the city, like the Butterfly House, the Great Plains Zoo, going to a movie, the Washington Pavilion, Great Bear, all great entertainment options, and many of which we also help to support. Again, we think the proposed rates that we have for a family of 5 are very affordable and a good value. So with that, I would turn it back over to Tracy to close, and then take your questions.
Thank you, Don. At the start of the presentation, I identified a number of goals that we were trying to achieve with these recommendations, and I just wanted to take a couple more minutes before we're done here to kind of recap those goals, because I think the recommendations that you've just seen from Alicia and from Don really hit the mark in achieving those goals. In terms of ensuring the outstanding value for all citizens, I do believe that when we compare to the surveyed communities here in South Dakota that typically will offer, and pretty much exclusively, as I understand it, offer one outdoor facility. We will offer 5 outdoor facilities at a significantly lower rate for a daily pass. The other point I'd like to make is that our new indoor facility, as I said before, will be beyond comparison really for hundreds of miles around. So the value will most certainly be there with our indoor facility. It's a state-of-the-art, multi-purpose, year-round aquatics facility, something that the community has been wanting for many, many years. And lastly, I believe the proposals that are made, the recommendations that we've put forth are fiscally prudent and that they do establish that reasonable balance that I mentioned before between support from user fees and support from taxpayers. In terms of aligning our outdoor rates with other South Dakota and comparable Midwest communities, I think the graphics that Alicia and Don showed you certainly support that goal, and that we are well on our way to achieving that goal with these recommendations. One thing to keep in mind, that even with that $1 bump to the daily rates, we will remain well below the South Dakota communities that are offering only one outdoor facility. So that $1 bump is, I think, is a step toward aligning ourselves, but it still provides a great value with our outdoor facilities. The recommended phased approach that Alicia covered with you will get our season pass rates to the current South Dakota average by 2018. Of course, as she mentioned, by then we're likely to be behind the average again, because those communities will most certainly be increasing their rates as time goes by. And as both Alicia and Don talked about, we will continue to offer those reduced or discounted at half-price rates to low-income families. And it's critical, I think, for everyone to understand that none of the other communities we surveyed offer anything like this at all. The other goal we talked about was to establish the rates for our new indoor aquatics facility. I think the rates that we presented to you are very reasonable, particularly considering the outstanding value that will be provided. It's really a great value no matter what you compare it with, whether you compare it to other communities, whether you compare it to other aquatics facilities here in Sioux Falls, or other entertainment options. It's really a tremendous value, and I think the last couple slides that Don showed you really drive that point home. That's going to be a fabulous value for the Sioux Falls public. And the last goal we identified was to provide a high-quality patron experience. We certainly want to achieve that in both our outdoor and indoor facilities. We believe the recommended rates make all of these facilities accessible and affordable, and will really position our Parks Department to provide families with a safe and fun experience at our aquatics facilities. So I want to urge the council to support these recommendations. I know and understand that increasing rates is never easy, and nor should it be easy. I believe we've made a compelling case and provided sufficient support, overwhelming support for the recommendations that we've made, and I certainly hope you will think this through and at the end of the day provide your support to these recommendations as well. Lastly, I want to cover just the timeline, so you know we haven't been operating in a vacuum. The Parks team has been busy sharing this information with their Park Board committees. You can see that on June 2nd, they shared this information with their Marketing and Public Needs Committee. Same information was provided then on the 4th to the Planning and Development Committee. Last week on Friday, the whole Finance and Parks team met with council leadership, reviewed this information. Earlier today, then, the Parks team again met with their third Partnerships and Recreation Committee. We're here today at the Council Informational, so we're trying to do the legwork to share the information, get the word out, explain not only what we're proposing, but why, and why we think it is a good idea. June 16th, a week from today, then it would be presented, and the park board will be asked for their support to go on the record supporting this. First reading would be scheduled then for a week from today. Then there'll be actually a 3-week period of time before it would come back to the council for second reading and adoption. So I think that leaves a lot of time for further discussion and input. I'm sure you will have questions that will require some follow-up, and we look forward to that process. So we're still almost a month away before you would be asked to take a vote on this particular proposal. So with that, I know Alicia and Don and I will stand by for any questions you folks have. Thank you.
Councilor Offenbach.
Thank you. Thank you all. I do have some questions. I just wanted to make just a comment. I've spent about 5 years on the park board, and I all along thought that rates were not at what they should be. There was a time when the park board recommended a fairly significant increase in rates years ago, and the city council at that time, and I'm not sure that anyone is still sitting on the council, voted to cut those rates, to keep the rates very low, to make them affordable for our community, and I think there's value in that, but I also agree that we need to take a stand that as a community there is value in our pools. But I do have some questions for Don and regarding how this all might work if this were to pass. My first question is, what is a season when we talk about season passes for indoor and outdoor? The summer is the only season for outdoor, but there's not a senior season pass then for the indoor. Is that correct?
That's correct. Obviously, this is a new facility. We haven't ever lived it before, and we felt like it was important to really start out simple, and then after we've lived it a little bit, there may be opportunities to need to be able to tweak it a little bit. So that's where we came up with the annual pass that they could purchase. They could pay the daily rate, but also have a kind of the middle of the road option where they could pay the discounted rate of 10% and basically just buy value on that discounted rate of 10%. So for the indoor, there aren't actual seasons.
If I might continue. Council Chair. So if I buy let's say it's June, and I buy a punch pass for the indoor pool, is it valid then if I want to go to Drake Springs?
No, there would be separate indoor passes, and then if you wanted to go to the outdoor facility, it's a separate pass.
Okay, I'm going to struggle with that. Then if I might, just one final thing, not quite related to this, but the splash pad at Spellerberg we've talked about over and over again. First of all, will it happen? And second of all, will it be free like Pioneer Splash Park is?
The splash pad at the proposed Spellerberg indoor facility, with certainly every intention is for us to continue to pursue that and actually install that as part of the project. We're just waiting for the rest of the project to be bid out, so we kind of know where we're at on our overall budget. And so I think the next time we come back to you for your quarterly update, we'll have a better information on where we stand, because by that time we should have a really good feel for where we're at with our budget. And the second part of your question would be that facility would be it would be a paid admission to use the splash pad at the indoor aquatic center. And so the way it's set up, it's inside the fenced-in area of the aquatic center, and you'd be able to freely go in and out of the indoor aquatic center, or if you want to go out and be out in the sun, use a splash pad, you'd be able to do that too. But just from an access and control standpoint, it's part of the paid admission to the indoor aquatic center.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Well, this afternoon, we've learned a lot about our rates that are proposed in comparison to other cities, other facilities, and so forth. But I didn't hear anything about, are we going to make any money off of this, or are we going to lose money? And if we're going to make money, what is the projection? And if we're going to lose money, what's the projection?
Yeah, I think Tracy spoke to that a little bit. Unlike the event center, we're not planning to operate this in the black. We certainly do anticipate that we will subsidize this facility, and certainly we'll get you more information about some of those projections. But part of, on the revenue side, depending on what you decide, will obviously determine the ultimate subsidy level.
But right now, are you projecting $1 million subsidy for the indoor facility? each year, or what, I mean?
Yeah, we can give you some sense of where we're at on that. I think Tracy can speak to that.
Yeah, I can take a stab at responding to that. And as Don mentioned, this is a new facility, so getting our hands around what it's really going to cost to operate a facility, unlike anything the city's ever done before, is a little bit of a challenge in and of itself. But we've done our best, and our best estimate of what it will cost to operate the indoor facility is for a full year, and keep in mind the 2016 budget won't have to cover a full year. It'll be about 4 months. But for a full year of operation, we're estimating it'll be somewhere around $1 million in operational costs. And we've really gone out on a limb and tried to estimate, based on the rates that are proposed, how much revenue that will generate. And that's really taking a guess at how many passes we're going to sell, how many daily rates we're going to collect. But we've estimated that will generate about $700,000. So that would leave a gap of about $300,000, or about 30%.
So that's for the indoor pool. And then how about the outdoor pools? How much are we going to lose on those?
The outdoor pool, as I mentioned in my remarks, last year we spent about $1.8 million operating the outdoor facilities, and our revenues that were generated from user fees covered just over 25% of that. I believe it was about 26%. So there's quite a large gap there, almost a 75% gap between what it costs to run and what the facilities generate. And the proposed phase-in would get us, by 2018, we would hope to be somewhere around that 50%. So it would be a 50-50 split, essentially, between user rates and tax dollar support.
Councilor Kiley.
Thank you. After receiving this information, I did just a quick research of my own, and I looked at Yankton, Rapid City, Aberdeen facilities, Brookings, Madison, Sioux City, Lincoln. Tried to find information on Rochester, Minnesota, but they must be taking advantage of one or more of their 10,000 lakes, because I couldn't find it. But anyway, I did find that your data is pretty accurate in reflecting that our costs are very reasonably priced compared to other costs around the state or even regionally. But having said that, I'm not sure that offering a high quality service at a low cost to our citizens is necessarily a bad deal. And so I'm still digesting much of this information, and it'll probably take time, especially with reducing maybe some of the free passes or the reduced passes for some of the individuals. I'll need more information in the future. And regarding the proposals, and I'll try to go through this in an orderly fashion as much as possible. With the outdoor season pass rates, we have a reduced family rate. I didn't find anything about reduced rates for individuals. Can you speak to that, Alicia or Don?
Currently, we do have a reduced adult rate for our outdoor facilities. But what we found is that it's very minimal, the number of those that we sell a year. And so what we decided is that based on average, I believe it was 20 to 30 that we've done each year, that maybe we don't do a reduced adult rate any longer. We do offer a punch pass outdoors as well, and that is $30 for $36 worth of punches. And so, that's also another affordable option that we have that would be available to the public to purchase as well.
Okay, so if we did continue to offer that, it wouldn't be that great of an impact.
Correct.
Then also, with the punch passes for the indoor facility, how many punches are we talking about per $50? I'm assuming 10, but I know what making assumptions how that's affected me in the past.
Yeah, the pass is basically, you buy the $50 worth of pass, and depending on how you use that, if it's just for a child admission, which is $5, then it would be 10. But if there are a couple of adults that use that, that's a $6 rate, and so it would be based on the daily rate. So the value you get is that you don't pay the full price for the pass to begin with.
One of the other things that I noticed in your rates here, they're going up in increments of $45, regardless of whether it's 50, 100, 150, or 200. So there's really nothing that entices you to buy the $200 punch pass. You could just continue to buy the $45 punch pass and end up paying the same amount. Can you explain the rationale? Because often, if you're purchasing the higher amounts, you're actually you're getting more bang for your buck. And then there's an incentive to do that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I know that, for example, some of the golf courses do that as well, where the more you buy, the bigger the discount. Is that, I believe that's what you're referring to? Yeah, certainly that's something we could take into consideration, but again, we're trying to make it as simple as possible, as straightforward as possible, and certainly that's something that we could consider.
And then along with the indoor passes, this is kind of the opposite. There's an indoor annual pass that I can see, but I'm not seeing a family annual pass or a reduced rate for family annual pass or a reduced rate for an individual annual pass. Am I missing that, or is that not included?
Yeah, the individual pass for the annual would apply to any individual. It would be whether it be child, adult, senior. It really is for any individual, and so the rate is established based on, it would apply to any user.
So any consideration going to be given to the reduced rates for an annual pass?
We would have the reduced rate for individuals, but it wouldn't be broken down. There wouldn't be a separate rate depending on whether you're a child, adult, or a senior.
Right, but for family, that's
we're
not on
currently
there.
not proposing that.
Currently not.
Right.
Okay. And there's a possibility there.
Okay. Councilor Erickson, please.
I've got one more if I could, and then I'm done.
Okay, go ahead, one more.
Thank you. You do address monthly rates in your comparisons, but I do not believe a monthly rate is actually available, correct?
Correct.
It's either annual or punch or daily.
That's correct.
That's just for comparison purposes.
Exactly.
All right. And I guess I'd just like to very quickly follow up then with what Councilor Urbanbach had mentioned, a pass for all pools. I think that's something we should be considering so that there's not confusion that this pass works here, but it doesn't work here, or vice versa. And last question, public-private partnerships for operational costs for our indoor aquatic center, where are we at with that?
Certainly, that is something that we found that some other communities pursue to actually, in some cases, they actually purchase the passes from the city, and then they distribute those passes to those that they believe are deserving or needing of those passes. But that's certainly something that we're willing to explore in this case, to be able to try to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to accommodate those that are disadvantaged financially.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Erickson.
Thank you. You asked several of my questions, so I get to save my time for other questions. Okay, so I have a handful of questions here, mostly for the indoor. I too am struggling to wrap my head around this, and so if we need extra time, I hope that you will think about that as well. Before even seeing the communities surveyed, I also called a few friends in Watertown and Rapid City and asked how they do it. Watertown actually does give a $20 voucher towards each child that goes towards either the family or the individual pass. And so, which is different. Rapid City didn't, I know they're not on here, but Rapid City doesn't offer. Sometimes they partner with nonprofits who do give them out in their community, which the director from Rapid City did give you many praises, so I'll pass that along to you as well. For the indoor, my questions are about, also Legends was hired to do for a 6-month time frame. We were supposed to be getting an update, and I don't believe we received any updates about public-private partnerships for sponsoring of the outdoor facility, swim time clocks, you name it. Just curious where we are with that aspect of the public-private partnership.
Yeah, that's a good question. Legends is still actively out in the market pursuing that naming rights deal. They're actively pursuing all their leads. But at this point, we don't have everything finalized on that, but it still is something that they're actively working on. As it relates to the other private investment into the facility, we have folks willing to go out and assist us with what is commonly referred to as FF&E, or furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And we think it's a great fit because it really isn't tied to the building design per se in most cases. And so lane ropes, starting blocks, time clocks, all the different types of equipment that you put into an indoor aquatic center, they're very supportive and willing to go to work on securing those items. And so I think it's just a matter of giving them a go once we have that complete list of what's needed to really go out and attack that and provide that for that facility, which I think is really going to be a significant help to the project.
Okay, so then my other, we've been told that there are organizations that are really interested in renting out our facility. Will those swim team folks be required to buy individual annual passes, or will that be done on a rental fee basis?
That's a good question, and I know Councilor Anderson asked the same question. Is that one of the things that we also will have is some of the other miscellaneous fees that we would need to establish. With user groups, we anticipate that we'd actually have an agreement with them, but you'll see when you actually get the fee ordinance on first reading, there'll actually be rates for those lap lane rentals that we've surveyed as well. And so if you want to rent a 25-yard lap lane, what does that cost per hour? If you want to rent a 50-meter lap lane, what does that cost per hour? There's some room rental charges, some certification courses like swimming lessons, and lifeguarding and WSI certifications. Those will all be in there, but the meat of the actual revenue is in the daily and season pass rates, but you'll see that in the actual ordinance itself and be able to take a look at those.
Okay, and then the other thing going with the swim teams, if it's a meet and they charge admission, is that their meet, or is that a city meet that we get to keep the admission to our facility? Even they're renting it,
Yeah,
it's our building.
that what we're proposing is a significant change from what we currently do. I would tell you that we're proposing a $10 per participant fee for that, which is significantly more than we've charged for outdoor facility like at Frank Olson when they have a meet. We've been in communication with them about what we anticipate that charge to be. Ultimately, the City Council gets to decide what that rate is, but again, that is a result of talking to other communities that have these types of facilities, and that's what they charge, and it's significantly more than what we currently charge at Frank Olson.
One last one. I promise it's only one. Looking at the proposed indoor pass rates, I know the $50 punch card, 100, 150, whatever. I think that's fantastic for people that don't maybe, that maybe can't financially afford to do a monthly pass, but I'd really, really encourage you to look at a monthly pass. For our family, we pay for a gym membership. I don't use it, so they get my money a lot each month. I mean, they just get all my money because I'm not using it as much. Same thing with the monthly pass is if you've got a family that wants to have that monthly pass and they swipe their card every time they go in, well, you might not get say it's, I don't know, $30 a month, $40, whatever it is. If you are swiping that and you're using it 3 times a month, well, you probably made more money on your return than doing your $50 punch pass because you just got $40 a month. Just kind of like the gym, and maybe that's something you talked about. I just think if you set them up on the automatic deposit, just have it generated. For some people, it's ease. For me, knowing that I just don't have to go out and get the punch pass, it might be easier for a family like myself to just know I can just go, swipe my card, and off we go. Just a thought.
Yeah, and your thoughts are, I mean, the one thing that we found in all of our survey information and talking to all these facility providers, there is no one size fits all. They all seem to do it different, and they kind of customize it to our community. So we thought, it might be easier just to start simpler right out of the gates, not knowing what kind of demand, what kind of use we're going to have, what kind of feedback we're going to get from people that use our facility. And so that's kind of why we've gotten to the rate structure that we're proposing today, is that let's start out simple, and if we need to tweak it and say, hey, that monthly pass is something that people are saying they really want, then we can come back and tweak that and anything else that we learn after we've operated it for a little bit. So we had those discussions, but we're just trying to keep it simple and straightforward, easy to understand. And then if we want to get more complex or right size it, to what we're hearing from the community, then we certainly can do that too.
Just, at a reduced rate of $150 or even the regular rate of $300, that's a large check to just write out. So I don't know if you plan on offering like a payment plan or something of that sort, but, $150 is a lot of money to just, if you have 2, 3 kids or just one or yourself or whatever it is. I don't know if you plan on doing some sort of payment plan or if it's all upfront and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's good feedback, and we'll take that back to the team to see if there's other the tweaks we can make.
Counselor Karski.
Thank you, Counselor. Begin by kind of making a statement a little bit here. I think it's pretty safe to assume that no other community would use Sioux Falls pool rates when they're trying to set their own rates.
That's true.
Yeah. And based on that, kind of going back to, and I'm going to disagree with Counselor Kiley on this and probably put myself out there a little bit. I think we do need to look at the rates, and I'm glad that we are. You are making concessions with the reduced family rate. I guess more discussion on that, I think, would be important. How are we using that rate? I know we use the free and reduced school program to set that rate, but what is that formula and how does that work? Are we using the right formula when we go from, according to Alicia's numbers in 2006, only giving out 6% passes, going all the way up to 63% based on that formula? It kind of is confusing. And it also kind of begs the question, when it drops, why would somebody want free multiple passes? Were they selling them? They were. Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm glad we have our hands around that a little bit better then. Questions I have, or maybe going on, Director Turbach made the comment that by changing these rates, we would go from subsidizing our pools at 25% to 50% of the budget. So currently we're subsidizing $1,350,000 of our budget is going to subsidize the pool operations of their total. This would free up $450,000 additional money in our general fund that, as you had said, can be used to hire firemen, policemen, whatever the case may be. I think that's a very valid point. And with Councilor Erpenbach, the all pool, or the pass, using the pass to get into all the pools, I think there would be confusion there, but I think if you buy an indoor pool pass, you get into any of the outdoor pool pass, into any of the outdoor pools. But it would be kind of hard to go the other way when the rate is so much different, unless it was a daily rate, I guess. I don't know if we're going to have ongoing discussion with this, but I see where we have a lot going on here, and I support the incremental look at this, and we just want to thank everybody for their time and what they put into it. No questions.
Councilman Jamison.
Thank you, Don or Tracy, either one. I couldn't help but count the number of times the word value was stated. And I counted 12, just myself. And it's stated as your first objective in the goals here, ensure outstanding value for all citizens. Is there something that I'm missing or we're missing that people don't see a value in the pool system today?
Well, no, I think there's a recognition, at least on the staff's part, is that we do provide outstanding value, especially with our current rates. And even with the proposed rates that we're proposing to you today, we would continue to provide outstanding value, especially with our current rates. And even with the proposed rates that we're proposing to you today, we would continue to provide outstanding value. Various different options. You can go to any pool in town and use that facility. There are many cities that say you have to choose your pool that you want to swim at. We provide unlimited access to all 5 of our aquatic centers. We provide the wading pool at McKinnon at no charge, and we provide the spray ground at no charge at Pioneer. And so I think that's what we're trying to speak to, is that we provide a lot of service to the community, and And we just think that it's worth the investment by the folks that use those facilities to pay a reasonable rate for those services. And I think they are of high quality. That's not a single standalone pool. And, you know, you might argue, well, those communities are smaller, but there's still only one option. You really only have one option in those communities. And so just trying to reinforce that there is great value, and certainly offer up to Tracy if he has any additional comments on that.
That's fine, I get it. I just couldn't help but notice the number of times it was stated, and it's just a little thing we do up here, keep count of some of those words. One of the other things I was going to bring up is I have a lot of questions, as some of you do and did already ask, but I want to just ask maybe two things. I think there's a fundamental question here about the goal, and well, first off, the indoor pool I think is just a little separate than the outdoor pools, in my opinion. We don't have an aiming right sponsor for the indoor pool. I think there's people out there who want to do it, but we really don't have our hands around exactly what that operating cost is going to net out to be. And I think if we just spend a little more time on that, we have time before it's finished. You know, the timeline that's laid out here is, you know, to make some decisions right here in June. Park Board votes in June. In essence, the second reading and final vote July 7th. I'm not sure what the reason for having, just to get it done, I suppose, is fair, but we don't have a deadline of, unless we're missing a publishing date or something that requires it to be done by then. Help me understand the timeline.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I think Don alluded to this during his remarks. In order for us to program revenues into the 2016 budget, those fees do have to be in place and authorized by the City Council in order for us to put those revenues in the budget. So that explains kind of the timing of this in terms of why we feel it's important to get this done.
Understandable. Okay, I get it. I must have missed that part. The fair part about the discussion, I think, is that there's a lot of different rates in here, a lot of different adjustments that we have to consider, and it's going to impact a lot of people. You know, it was a sidebar comment about having a workforce work meeting to discuss all these aspects of this, but I just hope that we get to have further discussion amongst ourselves about whether these rates are right, what we think is good, or if we want to adjust them on our own. Just in one other reflection here, like some of you, I did make some phone calls as well. I called Rapid City, hadn't heard back from them. Yankton used to provide some free passes for kids. They stopped doing that 3 years ago. They saw a 20% discount or 20% reduction in people who came to the pool, so they were able to keep 80% of those people. So I think they recovered pretty well. Brookings, though, I found that they still do offer a free pass. The individuals need to go to their Interlakes Community Partnership Center, and apparently from there they can get a certificate to get a free pass for the pool. So I don't know how you may have done your research, but that's just what I found when I called them. Anyway, and Yankton has an indoor center, but as I think Don mentioned, it's not comparable to what we have for an indoor pool. So some of the rates wouldn't apply for what they're doing, but there's a lot of ways to make this all work with the rates. And I commend the staff for trying to get through it and wade through it, because it's not easy, just as we've tried to absorb it here today. I just think we probably need a little time, that's all.
Okay. Councilman Rolfing.
Thank you. There are times when being the elder on this situation, this council is somewhat of an advantage or a disadvantage, and I'm feeling that this may be one of them, because well, I know Councilor Anderson, you and I talked about this, and some of the rest of you, that we can remember in Sioux Falls when we swam for free, and we've had some of this discussion earlier, 4 years ago, I think, when we were just on this, when I was just on the council for the first time, and the rates went up, and we all really, struggled with making that decision, and I think we need to keep that in mind. I wonder if our free swimming is not kind of like free ice water while drug and 5-cent coffee at Al's Oasis, in that it brings people into the pools, it brings people from outside the city into our area to spend their money and to recreate here, which is always a good thing. So I struggle a little bit with that. The other thing I look at on the one proposal, or with the proposed outdoor daily rates, I see that the South Dakota is at $6 average. We are now at 4. And is it 4 or are we at 3? We're at 3 now, aren't we? We're at 3 now. Proposals to go to 4. The average in the Midwest is still $3. Maybe they know something that people in South Dakota don't know. That keeping the rates low on this is important, because I think it's kind of like our park department. We subsidize the park department tremendously, and a lot of people don't know about that or don't think about it. But it's one of the things, again, that draws people to Sioux Falls, that makes Sioux Falls a quality place to live as good as there is in the country. Because we don't keep up with those rates in either the South Dakota or with the people around the Midwest, doesn't make it wrong. It just flat out doesn't make it wrong. And to be looking at this as I guess I prefer to look at it more as a marketing tool, if you will, or a quality of life issue, rather than keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. And I really feel we need to find some way, not unofficially, but officially, of how to fund those passes for people who need them. In my opinion, we've got to find a way to do that isn't say, well, we hope we can be able to find somebody to do this, give us some money so that we knew it. No, we either got to do it with our funds, or we got to have it on a contract with somebody to be able to do it, so that those kids, I keep coming back to what Bob Litz said when we went through this before, this is the only bath some of these kids get every week. And we need to keep make sure that these kids stay clean. And that was meant facetiously a bit. But anyway, those are my reactions. I don't have a lot of questions, other than I know it's easy to go after and say, well, we're behind, we need to catch up. And I just wonder if we really do need to catch up, or if we need to catch up on the pace that we're looking at in order to make this still a great amenity that the city of Sioux Falls has.
Councilor Urfenbach.
Thank you. I just wanted to add some feedback to it. I agree with Councilor Jameson that we need some time for some conversation. Just a couple of thoughts coming out of this. Again, I don't disagree that our rates need to increase. I've thought that for a long time. But one figure in particular is really unreasonable to me, is that we're proposing to increase the individual child pass by 100% next year. We would double the $15 fee to $30, just like that, 100% increase. So, and to me then, my gut reaction, and I realize this is all new and it's all change, my gut reaction is this is not a simple plan. And it really, in effect, looks to me right now like it doubles the swim fees for summer. Because I can't, if I have a pass for the indoor pool, I can't swim in an outdoor pool with that same pass, and so I have to buy both passes. To me, that sounds like doubling it. It sounds like double the hassle. If my family can afford both those passes, it's double the hassle. But then the other side of that is that it then continues that division between the haves and the have-nots, which was one of the reasons that we offer the swimming passes that we do now, is that we don't want the haves and the have-nots. We want everybody to swim. We want them to be able to swim whenever they want to and wherever they want to. And so to me, to say, you know what, you got to pay more because you're, and wherever they want to. And so to me, to say, you know what, you got to pay more because you're going inside, means there's going to be kids that are not going to swim because their families can't afford that indoor pool. And I think there's got to be a way that the indoor and outdoor, you have just one pass, you pay one fee, whether it's reduced or it's free or it's full price or whatever, but you pay one fee and you swim in any pool in Sioux Falls. And I realize that's different than what other communities are doing, but I don't think we've ever said Sioux Falls is like all these other communities. we stand out for a lot of reasons, and this could be one of them. So I guess I agree with Councilor Jameson that I'm really not comfortable setting these rates this soon. I think that certainly we only have a week to first reading. Certainly we spend time in first reading, and then 3 weeks to second reading. I guess I would beg citizens to give us a call, send an email, whatever. I would like you, though, to look at these numbers first. Don't just say, don't raise the rates. Please just give us some real feedback in terms of what is this going to mean to you, to your family. I want to have those real in-depth conversations about this, because this isn't just, I mean, yeah, we say we're tweaking it, we'll fix it later, but sometimes we get kind of stuck in a rut, so I'd really like us to start out in a good place, and I'm not comfortable where this is at right now, so that's my 2 cents.
Councilman Karski.
I'm just looking for a little perspective here. Who can tell me how many days our outdoor pools were open last year?
53.
Should we guess? What's over under? No, that's too many.
Well,
62.
approximately, they're supposed to be open 101, but that's obviously not true because of closures and things. And so I was just going to page through here because I do have information on that. If you give me just a moment. So last year, we were closed a total of 4 full days, and we were closed a total of 21 half days due to weather-related issues, most likely. And so, again, we planned for 101 total days open. Again, we had 21 full days, or 21 half days, pardon me, and 4 full days. And in 13, we had 11 full days and 10 half days.
So at least close to 80. 80 days.
Correct.
And at even a child 2018 proposed rate of $60, that's 75 cents basically per day. If you went every day, if you went 1/3 of that, it's about $2 a day. I mean, just keeping it into perspective, I guess. And for a reduced family of 5, at $15 a person for $75 proposed rate, and you got 80 days, you're paying 10 cents a time to go to the pool. If you wanted to use it every day, it's a lot more than 10 cents. Maybe if you used it twice a week, it's 50 cents to go to the pool. Just trying to keep that number in perspective. And it's something to think about when we talk about numbers and rates and what is it actually costing to go to the pool. The $5 a day or even $3 a day that we currently charge, I have a feeling that that's not used very often. Am I right in that? Most of our visitors, our guests at the pools are buying passes?
Correct. Well, correct for the most part, but we can get you additional information and exact figures because I'd like to get you exact numbers versus rounding it out for you. But we can get that to you later as well with follow-up information if that works.
Councilor Kiley.
Well, thank you. First of all, I just would like to make a point of clarification because there could be some confusion based on an earlier statement that was made. I did not state that I was opposed to reviewing or possibly adjusting rates. What I did state that I didn't really see a negative in offering a high-quality product at a low cost to our citizens. Just if you and I are offering the same service, just because I'm offering a reduced price compared to you doesn't mean that my service is any less valuable to you than the other service. So I'm not buying into, I guess, that sort of thing. But I do have, as I mentioned, I do have some concerns just about some of the categories, the possible increases or the loss of some of the categories. I have no problem with increasing in others. As I had stated in my review of the materials locally and regionally, I can definitely see that we're lagging behind, and I see the necessity in increasing some of those areas. I do have concerns in others because I do think it's a tremendous quality of life that we're offering here to our citizens and to our families. Just one quick question. And if parents with the indoor aquatic facility, if they don't want to swim but they want to observe, do they have access to the observation area without any kind of a cost associated?
We would actually have people who are coming to observe. We still ask them to pay a fee. We do that at the outdoor pools, and we would anticipate to do that at the indoor. The reason being is that what we find is you can't control once people get in. If they've come in street clothes, they may have swimsuits underneath. And so also they still contribute to the capacity of the facility. And so it's important for us that if they're contributing to the capacity of the facility, we want to make sure that they've paid to get in then, because that would eliminate another swimmer from coming in. But as for swimming lessons and things too, we always allow people to watch swimming lessons so that you can see that.
So that I understand what you stated, so if I wanted to watch my grandchild swim, I could not access the observation area?
You know, that's something that we'll have to look at. It's a little different at the outdoor pools, obviously, because we have the fenced-in area so they can stay outside of the fence to watch them. So at the indoor pool, we're going to have to think about how we're going to handle those spectators that are watching the lessons. We do have a mezzanine level. That'll be a great opportunity for people to be able to sit up in, and it'll have glass, and so they'll be able to watch the lessons going on. So there might be an opportunity for us to tweak how we're handling our operations in order for people to be able to watch.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Erfenbach.
One final comment from my perspective in terms of Councilor Karski's talking about how much that fee is, and I think we have to keep in mind that, yep, $75 for the summer is not a big deal for me. I'll write a check, no problem. It's a really big deal to come up with $75 in one shot. If you're on food stamps and only one income in the economy that we live in Sioux Falls now, that $75 is going to be impossible to come up with. And even to come up with $25 in one shot is difficult. So I think we have to be really careful about how we make blanket statements about these fees. These aren't the fees about us. This isn't about the people that live in the economy that we live in. This isn't about us, sorry. This is about those folks that really are struggling their kids are eating free lunch at noon at the MB because that's all the food they're going to get this summer. So
just so I don't get 10,000 emails, I don't mean to sound insensitive. There are people that are don't get me wrong, definitely in need. And I go back to Alicia's, video or slide that shows 6% in 2006, and I believe there are 6% that are there. I heard the statistic that free and reduced lunches, and I haven't had time to verify this, but I feel it's from a very reliable source. A family of 4 that makes $70,000 a year is eligible for a reduced lunch program on the school lunch program. I don't see that as being destitute and needing a free pool pass. Okay, that was my comment earlier. We probably need to look at, instead of using that as our benchmark on how we provide it, we need to look at a totally different system.
Councilor Erickson.
Clearly, based on all the conversation, it's been fully discussed here. We still I still have a list of, you're going to get an email tomorrow of all my questions, so I won't waste the time right now. However, it's questions that I feel like we should throw out there so people are fully aware. I would suggest we take this to fiscal committee. I think it's a great area for fiscal, with the dollars, money. That's where I would suggest sending it. Or a working session, one of the two. So we can fully discuss this. If time is of the essence and we want to do a working session, great. Just my thought.
Councilor Jameson.
I would just chime in as well that, when you consider the budget impact, like was brought up, and that's fair, if I understand it right, the indoor pool would probably be open the last few months of the year next year, and of course, the outdoor pools would be open like normal. I'm just thinking that projections, if we're a month off, if we waited around and had further discussion and came back later in July or something, I'm just not sure that the changes would be dramatic. And I asked questions here of the finance department if that would create too big of a problem for you. I just want to ask in a fair manner if you did receive something back later in July, what would that do to your timelines and planning?
Yeah, we had a lot of conversation about the timing of this. And I think with the July 7th adoption date of whatever it is going to be decided really pushes us about as far as we can go in terms of timing to get a budget to the council on the schedule that we're on, because our charter requires it to be presented to the council in July As you know, it takes a considerable amount of time to put everything together, get the budget book together for your review, build presentations off of that. So I'd really discourage you from pushing it past that July 7th date. We will certainly make ourselves available to you individually and groups in a working session, however you choose to move forward with this, to try to do everything we can to help you stay on that schedule if at all possible. I understand you've got a lot of questions, and that's certainly to be expected. I think we've asked and answered a lot of the same questions ourselves, just as we've worked through this process. A number of the points that you've made here today, and there have been some very good ones in terms of rate structure. A lot of them, the monthly rates, the all-inclusive rates, a lot of those things we've talked about, and ultimately for the indoor facility, as Don mentioned, the decision was made that let's keep it simple. Let's try to anticipate as many of the possibilities, or the largest number of possibilities as we can, and try to cover those. The one thing, I guess, in my mind that I was really maybe the only thing that I'm certain of is that after a year of operation, we're going to want to change some of that. And that the structure is going to change, whether we want to add a tier for a certain type of rate, whether we want to add a monthly pass. So again, I guess I would encourage you not to get bogged down too much in trying to get it perfect the way, the first time out of the chute. We spent a lot of time trying to do that, and I can tell you, we're not going to get it perfect the first time. We looked at just a ton of different possibilities. There are really endless opportunities, endless possible ways you could structure rates. You can discount rates. You can, with the punch passes, it's limitless. And so as Don said, we tried to keep it simple. If you want to talk about rate levels, that's certainly an appropriate, fair discussion to have. I think what people should be paying, what you think is a fair cost. But I'd really hate to see because you could burn up a lot of time talking about structure, and when we don't really know, I think we need to get to the point where the facility is open, the people are starting to use it, listen to what the people have to say that are using it, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, and be prepared, as I say, a year after it's open to be adaptive to those needs. So that's I guess my encouragement or advice to you folks today on that point.
Councilor Erickson?
And with all due respect, then maybe we do a working session, but I then carefully ask, why bring it to us on such a short timetable then? If we're down to the wire, why not bring it a couple months before? Or why not have this conversation a little bit sooner? I guess I don't know.
I guess I don't know that this is a short timetable. I mean, you've got almost a month from today. I think that provides ample opportunity. We've got a lot of the research, the background, the data. We can certainly share all of that, any of that might help you understand better kind of where we came up with this information. The outdoor rates, there's not a lot going on there in terms of changes to the structure. You simply have some decisions to make about where you want to be from a revenue standpoint on the outdoor rates. And again, on the indoor, I really don't think you want to get too bogged down in the minutia of it to try to get it perfect the first time, because it's, as Don said, every facility does things differently. We're very, very likely going to want to change it after a year or so of operation. So don't kill yourselves trying to get it perfect the first time out of the chute.
Thank you, Tracy. Before you leave, though, I'm going to take the privilege. I haven't really jumped into this here, and I've been very quiet about it. I guess first a statement. As a youth, I grew up with 4 sisters. I would be that 5 family, that 5-member family. Both my parents worked, but if it wasn't for free or severely reduced passes, I wouldn't have been able to go to the swimming pools. And a lot of times we chose to go to a quarry or something that was probably very unsafe to swim. And swimming to me, especially in this area for our children, is extremely important. I want our children to learn how to swim. It's been, very beneficial for me when I did learn how to swim, and later on in life, it was very important in boot camp for me to swim, especially jumping off a 10-foot platform fully outfitted in combat gear. But what percentage of that 52% that in 2014 it says that are getting those free passes, with these raises and eliminating those free passes, what percentage of those children are not going to be able to swim? Have we figured that out?
I don't know that anybody can figure that out. I mean, it would just be speculation on that. And as we talked with you before, I think what we found was that other communities do have programs where they do have partnerships, whether it's with corporate sponsors. I'm somewhat familiar with, Councilor Erickson mentioned the Watertown program when I was there. The voucher was really a voucher funded by one of the local nonprofit agencies. So the city was receiving the funding from that. It's just that the individual didn't have to pay the full value. Now, maybe it's changed since I was there, I don't know. But, how many are gonna not have access anymore? I can only guess. I don't know.
And then taking a look at other facilities that we subsidize. I don't want to pick on any, but I want to look at the pavilion. To what tune, if you can think of it off the top of your head, to what tune do we subsidize the pavilion every year?
The annual contract, I think, is somewhere around $1.5 million.
All right.
Counselor, if I may, like you, I grew up in a big family. There were 7 kids in my family. I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and we all learned to swim. And although I don't think I'd come close to equaling Counselor Rolfing in terms of my elder status. But we also all swam for free, but it was at the lake. We didn't have the benefit of going to a swimming pool to learn to swim. The local mothers would carpool kids to the lake, and that's the way we learned how to swim. So we all have a story to tell, I guess, and
exactly.
I think we're trying to do the best we can for the community as a whole. And I hope you certainly take this presentation and the recommendations in that context. We're not trying to make a lot of money on this. We're trying to, as I said before, have a balanced approach, something that's fair to the folks that are using the facilities as well as the folks that are providing those tax dollars that are supporting the facility as well. And that's really ultimately, at the end of the day, the decision that you folks are going to be asked to make.
And just like I said in an earlier meeting too, Tracy, is one of the things I have heard from the council also is that I would really like to see that program where we go out to the private business community and have them purchasing those tickets and giving those to their employees that may not be able to afford these rate increases that are being proposed at this time. I think that is a real good thing to do. With that, is there any other suggestions? We were talking about letting fiscal look at this or work session. Councilman Karski?
My inclination is to let it go through the process as it's laid out in front of us. We're going to have a month to hear from our constituents, and at the night of the second reading, we're going to hear it. If it's that big of a concern to the people, we will hear about it. And at that time, it's going to be up to us to make the decision. This is a recommendation to us. It's up to us now to do our homework, to ask the questions. That they don't have to be all asked in public open meetings such as this. They will get asked. They'll get asked a lot, and we will have our time for public input at the second reading.
Come on, Soda Pop, let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on.